Greetings! Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal exploration. I am your host, Keith Johnson, the founder of New England Anomalies Research, also known as N.E.A.R. With me is my co-host, Sandra Johnson.
Hello there. Ready to explore.
And hello over there, Carl Johnson.
Hello, I didn't expect to be here tonight.
Well, he's here.
Here I am.
He's here nonetheless.
Surprise.
And this evening we have a very, very distinguished guest with us, a good friend, and the founder of Greenville Paranormal. I'd like to introduce Andrew Lake. Let's give him a good hand.
Andrew Lake, studio audience, Come on, Andrew Lake. Quite a crowd here tonight.
How you doing, buddy?
Just fine.
Good to see you.
Sandra?
Andrew?
Carl? Hi.
Well, let's get a little background on you, Andrew.
Andrew was born.
Yeah, he was born, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I mentioned many of you are familiar with your famous dad.
Yes, I am the youngest son of Arthur Lake, best known as Art Lake the Weatherman,
Right?
who is now retired these days.
Right.
We are very big fans.
Our
Thank you.
beloved weatherman of many years. We
right.
all cherish his memory, and I mean, he's still with us, of course.
That's
but I
right.
mean, his memory of his TV years.
But,
And,
and the weather's been wrong ever since he retired. So
yeah, that's true.
I've
can we do?
noticed that.
yeah, it's
You're not very accurate
no,
now.
no.
I actually have cherished memories of his school cancellations.
Yeah, it was pretty
And work
special coming from Dad as
cancellations and
well.
other
Yeah.
things, yeah. Right. So tell us how Greenville Paranormal came about. Obviously, a resident
Well,
of Greenville.
I started Greenville Paranormal Research back in the autumn of 2006. I'm basically a one-man band. Anybody who wants to come ghost hunting with me come ghost hunting with me. I'm mainly into research, into looking into hauntings to see if there's any historic fact that can be connected to it, besides investigating it, looking for any evidence.
Right.
Greenville Paranormal Research kicked off, I think, with a real start on October 2006 with a visit out to the Ramtail.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
I was not disappointed when I went out there with a good friend of mine, and we did indeed see Peleg's lantern not once but twice.
Right.
And I was like, that's it, I've got to get organized. After years of having accidental encounters with ghosts and hauntings, I decided that's it. I've got to get myself organized here and go into it.
Well, that's one of the places similar to the Bridgewater Triangle. Of course, our friend Matt is very familiar with. Bridgewater Triangle, you're almost, I would like to say you're almost guaranteed to come away with something, experience something there. Same way with Ramtail, the Ramtail site in Foster. I think that...
Well, all of Foster, really.
Yeah.
Foster
right.
is not only a wonderful town full of really nice people, but it's very haunted.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
there are established haunts that anybody can take a car and drive right out to them, and who knows, you might be lucky. You have, in the southwest corner, you have Moosehead Valley, where there's the Grange Hall Ghost.
Right.
There's an apparition of a middle-aged man in work clothes with an old-fashioned shovel with a broken spade, who was seen in the length from the Grange Hall down to the bridge. And I myself experienced some strange things out there, and even caught something on video camera that I couldn't explain. Very interesting place. Very spooky, though. There's no electrical lighting out there, so once the sun goes down in Moosehead Valley, it's dark. I had one of the librarians at the Tyler Free Library tell me that she's never personally experienced anything there working at the library, but when she closes down in the winter and it's dark, she goes from the front door of the library to her car as fast as she can, because it is a very spooky place. Of course, you also have the oldest carriage trail around in that part of Rhode Island, Tucker Hollow Road, which hasn't changed at all. It's still a dirt track with very few houses on it. And you have the legend of Aunt Lonnie, the woman who was accused of being a witch.
Right.
She was probably one of those old women who knew all the remedies, and she may have had second sight and spooked people. But as the story goes, when she passed away, she told the people of Hopkins Mills of that area that no one's going to live in my house. If they do, I will haunt them. And the story was, after she passed away, her property was still pretty much intact. And whenever anybody went to go look at it to think about, well, I might buy this place, Aunt Lonnie would have cost them and send them running. And I talked to the lady who now owns the property off of Tucker Hollow Road, and she says she hasn't experienced anything in there, but she still thinks about it every time she drives up her drive, if she's going to see Aunt Lonnie come across the road. Then right down Dolly Cole Hill, you have in Hopkins Mills, you have a ghost that our good friend Tom D'Agostino has witnessed twice. a full-blown apparition of a woman in white. There's a gentleman living in Hopkins Mills right now who has seen it. His wife's told me the story, but he won't talk about it because he was so frightened by it.
So he was actually
Yeah,
traumatized by that
saw her
experience.
standing by the bridge, which a lot of people have given the nickname of this ghost. They've called it Dolly Cole, which happens a lot.
Yeah, and that's
if you have a ghost
Yeah,
show up in an
right.
area where a famous person once lived, people tend to put that name onto the ghost. Well, Dolly Cole did exist. The hill on Route 6 that takes you into Hopkins Mill is the Dolly
Right.
Cole Hill. The little span on Old Danielson Pike is the Dolly Cole Bridge, and the Dolly Cole Brook runs under it. But those were all named for her because she was a beloved woman of the community. She was
Right.
91 and a half years old when she died. Her husband was not only the blacksmith at Hopkins Mill, he was a colonel in the Army and fought in the War of 1812. He died, I think, 4 years after coming back. But Dolly Cole was a very, very sweet woman. The Cole family was a very important family in Hopkins Mills as well as Foster. Her house, there's a house standing where her house used to stand, right at the bottom of the hill. The Walker family purchased the property after Dolly had passed away, but she's buried next to Hugh and her son Hugh Jr. and his wife and her grandkids in the Hopkins Mill Cemetery. And Tom D'Agostino always thought it was kind of strange giving that name Dolly Cole to the ghost he saw because it was seemed like a younger woman.
Right.
It didn't mesh, and she had a pail in her hand. And he had a gut feeling he was looking at a drowning victim. Well, sure enough, we did a little bit of research, and at the tail end of the history of the Ramtail, when there was still the mill buildings were down there, there was a guy named John Richards was the landlord. He didn't own the property, but he owned the buildings that was left of the hamlet. And the woman named Betsy Grayson was still living there. And not known as she worked at the mill when the mill was still active, but was living there nonetheless. And in December of 1860, she went to scoop water out of the Ponagansett. The current was so swift, it pulled her right off the bank. And they found her in where the Barden Reservoir is now. It was a swamp meadow that the Ponagansett ran through. Well, she began haunting the Ramtail hamlet almost immediately, and that was it. It's actually local, not legend, but record that everybody cleared out of there. Helig was bad enough, but now we have Betsy, and there's records that the landlord, Richards, took all the buildings down for the wood and the nails, and that was it. That was the last people to live there.
Right.
But I talked to a fisherman who was fishing by the Ramtail swimming pool. A lot of people wouldn't know it, but just as you're leaving Hopkins Mills, you're going down Ramtail Road, there's a little bridge on Ramtail Road. The Ponagansett used to back up because of the Ramtail Dam, and people used to go swimming there.
Right.
And I talked to a fisherman who didn't know the area was haunted. He now knows, but he was fishing off of it in a summer afternoon. The sun was just starting to dip, but it was still light enough to see the fish by. And he and two of his friends witnessed a white ectoplasm figure come right up out of the water and then float off of the woods. He said, I don't even know if I grabbed all my fishing tackle. He said, we ran out of there so fast. And been interested to find out just recently, Tom D'Agostino and I met a guy whose daughter was taking a shortcut down Ramtail Road one night to go down to Central Pike where she lived. And there was an old man on the bridge.
Oh,
and
wow.
she slowed down because she didn't want to clip him because it's such a narrow road.
Yeah.
And the guy disappeared.
Wow.
So we find out that one other ghost that is interesting about Ramtail that I found out, 1973, Joe St. Pierre, a researcher, found out that there's a ghost of a little girl that is also seen by the Ramtail swimming hole. She looks to be picking flowers. And that's one of the famous things about the Ramtail site. People don't realize all those beautiful flowers that are around there. Ramtail
very,
were
very
planted.
beautiful
They were
flowers.
the original.
Right,
they were
right.
the original
People who
Ramtail.
lived in the mill houses
Took
back
pride,
in the time,
took pride
you know,
in
they
them.
had their own gardens and everything, and some of that still survives. And it's wild now, but
Communities were built around the mills. The old
Exactly.
mill towns.
yeah, similar to a Slater mill.
It was the largest attempt at a village and mill in Foster's history, the Ramtail. I mean, it expanded quite a ways. As you know, you have the original mill site by the Ponagansett where the dam is,
Right.
close to Ramtail Road. And then if you continue down the carriage trail, there's where a bridge used to be, where the Dolly Cole Brook and the Ponagansett run in. And then the property up there about 300 yards where the bigger foundations are, that was the factory, the actual factory site.
Right.
Because it expanded into a simple mill business and then expanded into a larger factory, which is where you guys caught that spectacular photograph of the red
Yeah,
flash
the segmented light there. Yes,
that Carl
exactly.
himself witnessed this last October.
Actually saw that in October.
I was
actually saw that
pointing
with
the
the
wrong
naked
way
eye,
with the video camera.
Well, we know where to refer people. I mean, we always have. You must have people email you and ask you, where do we go in Rhode Island? You know, what do you suggest we
Travelogue
visit?
of haunting.
Yes.
Foster, Rhode Island.
Yes.
Andrew, why so many reports of paranormal activity, of hauntings in Foster? Is it the
I think
history,
I think
the
it's
Very
location.
secluded.
Yep, it hasn't been disturbed as
It's
much
the
as a lot of
highest
towns.
section of Rhode Island, the elevation.
Well, you have the energy of the Pontiac. All
Yeah,
those haunts
it's-
we just talked about.
Right.
I mean,
Running
it
It's no
seems to
accident
recharge
that it was such
Yeah.
a mill village. Mill villages sprang up around there.
Yeah.
So with the running water, the current, and the isolation, I think everything combined, the rich history.
Yeah.
And some people might be asking, well, gee, with all this paranormal activity going on in Foster, why isn't it captured more on film and on camera? Well, you've kind of solved that, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You brought some clips with
No,
you.
actually, no, not from Foster, unfortunately, because
Okay.
I had a juicier topic to talk about after Foster.
All right.
But if people do want to go to my website, I
Yeah.
have posted every bit of information. The most recent catch was back on October 4th. I caught 2 EVPs in the Ramtail area.
Oh, really?
And so far, I don't know of anybody who's caught EVPs at Ramtail. I caught a breathy male voice saying the surname Cole.
Oh,
And I was
very
asking
prominent
if
name
somebody
then.
around because I witnessed a ball of light on the other side of the Pontiac by the dam. I watched it for about 3 to 4 seconds, and then it just closed up and was gone. So I immediately began asking questions, and when I played it back, I got this breathy male voice going, Cole. But the strangest one I sent to John Hardy of Echoes Paranormal to filter it out. He had to take the sound of the Pontiac out, but you could hear this sing-song tone with the river. And when he filtered it out, it's a female voice saying, I feel sorry, I can't take it no more.
Wow.
And I did find that there was a suicide by rat poison in Hopkins Mills. I found that in the town record. So it did sound kind of like a desperate voice. I'm not saying it is, in fact, that person, but I've also been told that the Ramtail swimming hole was the site of an awful lot of drownings. The last one being a little girl, so that might explain the girl picking the flowers.
I remember when I was a teenager, we used to have the Tarzan swing, they called it over there.
Yeah.
And, of course, the police kept taking it down, and so they kept cutting the rope down, so finally they put a chain up, so they cut the whole branch down, because, I mean, it is unsafe.
Well, they were probably doing you a favor. You guys probably lived a little bit longer.
Yeah,
and
I
safer.
almost...
That's right.
I almost met my end there once.
Yeah.
My
We
feet
don't
got
want
stuck
you
in the
making
bottom.
any more ghosts out here.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, about Foster, I agree with you. If anybody would have come to Rhode Island and say, where's a good place to go poking around for haunts? Foster. And I mean, the people I've met so far that tell me they have ghosts in their houses, they're not even, public areas. So
Right.
it's just a rich place. I hope to go back this spring and start knocking on some doors. Hey, you're the guy with the story. I want to hear it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll go with you.
Matter of fact, I was told where Dolly Cole's house stands, it's haunted.
Wow.
Who's
I'm
haunting
not
it, we
surprised.
don't know. Could be the Walkers. It did burn down at one point when the Walkers were living there.
right.
So.
Prominent family.
You brought us some clips, Andrew?
Yeah, this pertains to an investigation that has been ongoing in Acushnet, Massachusetts, at a private residence. Matthew Moniz and Christopher Balzano were originally
Who
brought
have
attention
both
to this.
been guests on our show.
That's right. Chris was contacted through his website, Mass Paranormal Crossroads, and he thought, well, I'll go check it out. They seem like nice people. And he went to this house. This house is an historic home. I won't mention the name of it because I kind of like to keep it a little discreet.
Right.
I don't want
Yep.
everybody and their brother knocking on their front
Yeah.
door. Very famous house. It's had an awful lot of people living in it. It was built before 1776. They figure about 1743 was when it was built. But at one point, its history was also a funeral home. They were given an old newspaper ad from like the 30s that shows their house as a funeral home. So besides the colonial history, the funeral home history, it's also had many tenants going in and out of it. So who exactly is haunting this house, we don't know, because there are so many ghosts in the house. Chris and Matt, along with Mike Markowitz, I think one evening caught a total of 40 EVPs from Class A to Class C. Stuff was, definitely there. The people who own the house, who live on the first floor, and their tenants on the second floor, it seems not a week goes by that they don't experience either the sound of footsteps, people talking that aren't there. They've even recently, as December, captured a swirl of ectoplasm in the living room on the second floor, but absolutely fascinating. And when I finally got to the house, it was to help Chris with his book, Picture Yourself Ghost Hunting. Matt Moniz, John Horrigan, a friend of ours from Watertown, Massachusetts, came to demonstrate how you would investigate a house for his book and DVD. And I was shooting the DVD with a high-definition camera. Well, we were up in the attic, which actually has rooms in it and a short hallway and some store closets. And we're in the room we refer to as the EVP room because we seem to catch the most EVPs in the house in this one room. Well, Matt was demonstrating how you do a EVP sweep of the room, and you'll see Chris in the clip is playing with a small camera he was going to set up, and you'll hear him announce that this camera was completely charged, it's now drained. And Matt will turn and go, what? Like that. Well, just before he announces that the camera's drained and Matt is moving the EMF meter over a mattress, listen carefully to the clip and you will hear this Class A EVP. It's unreal. So if they could run that clip.
Okay.
Can we
Listen
bring
to the
that
clip.
up?
Even Chris doesn't even show up on EMF.
No power.
Okay, dude.
I completely, because it's been charging all day, it's dead already.
What?
Yeah.
Even Chris doesn't even show up on EMF.
No power.
Okay, dude.
I completely, because it's been charging all day, it's dead already.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It basically, from what we've been able to make out, is it says, what are you, a crybaby? He died in a plane crash, okay? And we had the house to ourselves.
That's very conversational.
Well, they've gotten some lengthy EVPs. The strange thing about that EVP is, as the EVP ends the word okay, Christopher Balzano starts his sentence with, okay, dude.
Yeah.
So okay is absolutely lapped right over on top of one another. They've gotten EVPs where they've said, don't talk, they're taping this. You know the rules, wait till they leave.
It's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah,
Wow.
they are well aware of us in the house. This next EVP I caught on November 22nd. I had a camera set up in that room, shooting out of that room with the lights off into the short hallway.
Same location.
Same exact location, same house. I just did an EVP session in the little room at the end of this hallway, which we refer to as the bell room, because it has a little bell from Ireland that sometimes the ghosts will ring. They've been told to ring it, and it has been heard ringing in the house.
Wow.
Well, I just done a 5-minute EVP session, and I thanked them if they had anything to say. And I'm leaving. I'm going out the door of the attic to go down the stairs and pulling the door shut. You're going to hear it at normal volume, and then you're going to hear it filtered by John Hardy of Echoes Paranormal. It's saying the surname Grelsch, which is a Russian surname. It says it 5 times in 2 different speeds. One slow and one normal speed. It's quite strange, but they can play that clip.
All right.
Okay.
We'll bring that up.
Now, who Grelsch is, I have no idea, but the funny thing is, putting this clip together for your show, I was enhancing the volume on the first clip, and I now notice that as the door completely shuts, a female voice says, Danny. And I couldn't believe
You
I
just
missed it before.
picked up on that.
I just found it recently, so maybe it was Danny Grelsch. I don't know, or Daniel Grelsch, but I just caught that EVP recently. Again, didn't hear a sound out of the house. I was being very careful to sounds to tag, whether it be maybe traffic outside or noise in the house, but didn't hear a thing as I left the room. But boy, it did surprise me when I found that.
This makes me think of, Keith and I taught a class last Friday night, and one of the students asked us about portals. And I remember explaining to the student that my opinion was that, yes, they do exist, but they're probably very rare. And I'm wondering if this house is so active, if that's a possibility.
Yes, and I'll give you a reason why I think you're absolutely right on that. One of Mike Markowitz's EVPs was a Marden one that said, once you do crack, you never go back. So that's a Marden ghost.
Yeah, I would think
That's somebody who
I would
obviously
think
had a
so,
bad
too.
drug habit and died, and may have died in the area. Because that has come about. They think that some of the ghosts are transient. They're going through, like you said, like a portal.
Just coming and going, right.
I brought a psychic in recently who says there are definitely 5 rooted to the place. And she picked up on what has been heard many, many times, the sound of two little girls.
Right.
She picked up on two elderly gentlemen. One's named John. The other one is named Theodore. Thank you, Matt. Theodore. I was going to say Benjamin, but it was Theodore. And there's also a woman with a severe attitude problem, and they believe that was one of the last tenants before the current owners, two owners ago. She was a bit of a crotchety old woman. She says Theodore fell and broke his neck, and they thought he was dead, and brought him to the funeral home, and discovered he was alive. And she's being shown the image of someone putting their hand over his nose and mouth to suffocate him.
Oh, wow.
So if this was back in the 30s, what could you do for someone with a broken neck? And someone. So she says it took place on the second floor. She says that's where the embalming was done. We haven't confirmed this yet, but she seems to think Theodore is a little bit miffed and showing himself. But what you brought about the portal, I don't think that's far-fetched at all. I think this is one of those cases myself. Even Christopher Balzano has said that, because it's so active.
You know, besides imparting information, it's remarkable that these spirit voices seems to evince different personalities. I mean, there are no two alike. They've got definite presences, definite characters.
Now, speaking of the girls, this next clip, I was doing an EVP session with the camera running in the same room, and I had my little handheld digital recorder set down on the bed, and I was listening to every sound on the road very carefully. It was light traffic, and you just hear every once in a while hear the of a car go by. And heard one toot of a horn, and I tagged it, but you almost couldn't hear it on either one of my recorders, either the camera or the digital recorder, but I still tagged it in case I noticed it later. Well, just as I was saying, talking to the little girls, I said, do you mind us coming here? Is it okay that we visit? You know, we just want to come here and talk. And I figured 6 minutes had gone by. It was a good session. And I said, you know, if you had anything to say, thank you very much. And I shut the recorder off. Well, just before I shut the recorder off, you'll hear clearly a little girl say, please get out. John Hardy, again, of Price Paranormal, I sent it to him, and he said this EVP was doing what some EVPs sometimes do, and that's ride the acoustic wave of a sound. And it was the gentle of a car going by outside. And it followed.
We've had that.
So I heard it with my naked ears before I even put it into my computer. I was just playing back the recorder that night, and I heard this, please get out.
We have had that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John Hardy tells me he caught a leave me alone off the buzz of a mosquito that came up to his mic. And now, you hear the mosquito clearly coming up, and then you hear this voice over it. You're like, please go away.
Think twice before you swat.
So let's check this clip out. It's very short, but you'll hear it. But yeah, you definitely hear it. It's a little sad and spooky when you hear it. And then you bring in a psychic medium, and she says that the girls are very scared by me. I intimidate them. Really? Yeah, the older one seems to be protecting the younger one, and the younger one's real. She says, so when you talk to them much softer. You get that big voice. You know, don't go.
They're afraid of you.
Yeah, I intimidate them.
And you've got those penetrating questions,
yes,
too.
I guess so. Answer them now. Okay, well, this one, the girls probably sent one of the spirits to talk to me, because this was very interesting. I, again, was leaving the attic, and just before I shut the door, you'll clearly hear someone tell me to shut up, but not just shut up. They say, Andrew, shut up.
Oh,
so they
very specific.
Clip. Yes, very. Say, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. But I think the ghost had had enough of me that night.
Did you take it personally?
No, I was very excited. Another researcher found that listening to my audio and emailed me and said, Andrew, I think you missed a real good one.
It's very exciting when a spirit voice names you.
Yes.
A little disconcerting, maybe kind of spooky, but
they get to know you.
Well, Chris Balzano went back with Matt one time. He says, we're back. Do you remember our names? And when they played back the tape, you hear, Matthew, Matthew. So the little girls seem to like Matthew. They're little shaken up by me. Well, the most interesting physical evidence I got at the end of the night when I went to go back up in the attic to retrieve my camera, I found the attic door open.
Really?
And I know I had shut it. So in this next clip, you'll see that I caught it with the camera.
All right, great.
Oh, good.
We'll see that.
Not only that,
I'm
but
impressed.
the lights go on a lot in the attic. And John from the first floor was putting away Christmas decorations about 2 weeks ago. And he was in the room where that camera was. And he clicked the light off and he walked out and he went into the next room, the bell room as we call it. And he clearly heard the shink chink, turned around and the light was on. So he went down and said to his wife, if you want anything else put in the attic, you can put it in the attic.
Right, yeah.
So the attic is the hot spot. Even though there is activity on the second floor, and they do experience things on the first floor, the attic seems to be their turf.
Right.
Are the homeowners disturbed by this regular activity?
No, they find it rather fascinating because if anything demonic was involved with it now, you know, something would have happened. They did have an empty plastic water bottle during a Spooky South Coast presentation. They were there doing an investigation over the air, and a plastic jug actually left the attic stairs and went flying at them. That and a hand grabbed the tenant on the second floor while he was down in the cellar.
Right.
I can say that I saw the shadow figure myself in the cellar. It was rather disturbing when I saw it move, but he has been seen down there by the kids and the owner from the first floor. Again, we don't know if it's Theodore, we don't know who he is, but he did firmly put his hand on the tenant from the second floor shoulder while he was doing laundry.
Well, some of this
kids
activity.
seem okay with it too?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
He's okay with
The
it?
kids?
The kids kind of like laugh it off. They don't like going in the cellar and they don't like going in the attic, but they basically deal with it.
They live with it.
Yeah. Because nothing sinister has happened. It's been more of like, hey, we live here too kind of energy.
Well, all this kind of indicates that these entities want to be recognized. Would you think?
Well, please, shut up and please get out. And
Well, they don't always want you to stay around
I'm
too
trying to tell
long,
you
but
something, Andrew.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You and that booming voice, get out of here. Well, moving on, I've got two more clips and also another location that we went to with Spooky South Coast, the Fearing Tavern Museum in Wareham, Mass.
Okay.
It was a fascinating place.
Right.
we may have time for just one of those
Yeah,
clips.
well, we'll show this one. This is a very interesting EVP where Matt and a lady were downstairs talking simultaneous.
Yeah.
Check out the shush when they're talking.
Okay.
You can clearly hear Matt and the lady downstairs.
That's what we need. Oh, that's what we need. Let me.
In the front.
So that's
I'm going to
it.
wear my Australian hat. My friends Anna and Allison have requested that I show this off. That's a birthday present. Yeah, yeah.
wear
with the
mine.
cup.
I just didn't
All
bring
right.
it.
Well, we're out of time. Andrew, you got to come back. You got to come back. That's all I can say.
It flew, bud. It flew.
did. All right.
Sandra,
Yeah,
it was
we
great
want to
being
hear
here.
the rest of this.
Oh, I can
Good night,
bring-
everybody.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.
Good night.